Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We'll begin in about a minute or so. Please take a moment and update your name in Zoom with your first name, organization, and gender pronouns. You can do this by clicking the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of your personal Zoom square. And those of you who are dialing in by phone, don't worry about this part, of course. Closed captions are available today thanks to Partners Interpreting. You can turn captioning on or off by clicking the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions as you're settling in, please feel free to put a message in the chat, either to me, Mass Cultural Council, or to the group, and we will begin momentarily. And we do ask that we keep yourselves on mute. Thank you. Okay, Troy, take it away.
Thanks so much. Good morning, all. Welcome to Massachusetts Cultural Council's third listening session for cultural sector stakeholders to meet and get to know our new Executive Director, Michael J. Bobbitt. My name is Troy Siebels. I'm a member of the agency's governing council. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Mark Carroll, who's our council's vice chair, who I believe is with us on the call this morning, as well as State Representative Mary Keefe from Worcester. Mary, I believe you're on the call. Thank you for joining us as well. We are grateful to start our day with so many artists, teaching artists, humanists, scientists, community leaders, and cultural organizations this morning, and we're grateful to be working with all of you to advance the power of culture across Massachusetts. Our council was faced with the need to identify and hire a new executive director this year. A person who could lead the agency this year, navigating through the intersecting crises in which we find our industry right now. We were fortunate to find a person who could rise to that occasion. Michael Bobbitt has been on board for just under 3 weeks and has been working hard to settle into this new role and has already made his mark. And I, for one, am anxious to work with him in the months and years ahead. Today is an opportunity for Michael to introduce himself to you and to start working to build relationships with all of us. He's here to answer your questions and to hear directly from you what you feel that he needs to know in this new role. We have representatives of Mass Cultural Council staff on the call as well, and they may contribute to the conversation as necessary. So once again, I'll just say thank you for joining, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Michael J. Bobbitt.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Troy, for reminding me about the intersecting crises that we're involved in right now. I appreciate it. Good reminder. I may make a bumper sticker. Thank you so much. Welcome and good morning, Central Massachusetts and MetroWest. It is a beautiful day outside. The turkeys are out this morning, and also this morning in my workout with my trainer, I only cried twice, which means there's progress. It's great to see your faces, and I really can't wait to visit you and your institutions. A special shout out to State Representative Mary Keefe and Council Vice Chair Mark Carroll and the Mass Cultural Council staff. And a huge nod to Ann Putraselli Moon for organizing these listening sessions, and the fast fingers of Luis Cotto for keeping us informed with great links in the chat. The opening slides you saw as you came in feature art by agency-funded artists from across the Commonwealth. So before we begin, I would love for everyone to just say hello in any way you would like, except stay on mute. You can wave at the camera, you can post in the chat, you can share a greeting in a native language. We'll do that together on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello. Fantastic. I'm also going to say Chuk Mong Nam Moi. In my family, we are celebrating the Vietnamese New Year's. It's aligned with the Lunar New Year. And so my son and I enjoyed decorating and some of the customs. I like to share things about myself, mostly because I believe that people do business with people they know. And I want you to get to know me, and hopefully soon I can get to know all of you. Many of the questions today that people are asking is for me to share my vision. And what I want you to know is that any vision that I form will be in partnership with you, with staff, with the council, legislators, and informed by conversations with colleagues and partners and other state arts agencies, and what is most critical in the Commonwealth and maybe even in the country. So today, I really kind of hope I give you a glimpse into the way I think, my beliefs, and who I am. All right, so my name is Mike. Actually, it's Michael. I'm getting used to it. In New England, by default, people call me Mike. In fact, I was looking at my tea mug this morning, which is engraved. It's a gift from my mom, and it says Mike and Steve. I did send her a note that it's Michael. I use the he series pronouns. And for anyone with vision impairments, I am a Black man with a shaved head and a closely cropped beard. And I am wearing a purple shirt, which I got on discount from therealreal.com. I have been on this planet for 48 years, born and raised in Washington, D.C., but I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is the land of the Nipmuc and Pequasit band of the Massachusetts people. Everything happens on indigenous lands. I started my artistic career in the first grade when I was Hansel in the third act of Hansel and Gretel. There were 3 Hansels, but my mom says Act 3 was the best act, and she clearly has no biases. I went to college and trade schools in the late 1900s to continue pursuing a career in the arts, and then toured the country and the world working in theater until I transitioned to teaching and arts management in the early 2000s. I am the newlywed to my husband, Steve, who is Jewish, and now I get Hanukkah presents, which is a nice perk. We are the fathers of our 19-year-old son, Sang, who was adopted from Vietnam when he was 8 months old. He is studying marine biology at the University of Florida. He's also pestering me about a PS something or another, and I'm seriously about to block him. My husband and Sang both speak Japanese and make fun of me in Japanese, but they don't know that I am secretly Rosetta Stoning Japanese. I am the brother of 7 siblings, and don't tell my siblings, but I'm pretty sure I'm the favorite child of Dorothy and James. My great aunt, Mamie Peanut Johnson, was one of 3 women who played in the Negro Leagues. She was the only pitcher, and she was discovered by Satchel Paige, and they called her Peanut because she was 95 pounds. My godfather, Chief Z, was the unofficial mascot for the Washington football team, and one of the main reasons why I don't like sports ball, in addition to the numerous broken bones. I'll tell you a story someday about the 2 collarbones that I broke. My ancestry is predominantly Black, but descendants of white and indigenous ancestors. I only eat whole food plants, no meat, dairy, processed food, or sugar. I used to eat a lot of ice cream and make a lot of cookies. I also formerly was an Idris Elba stalker, and I'm still trying to recover from my TV addiction, but I relapsed because of Bridgerton and WandaVision. It was Agatha all along, which was the best twist ever. I'm an arts leader, educator, playwright, director, choreographer, arts and anti-racist advocate, and I aspire to be graceful, a little silly, and sometimes provocative, plus savage, classy, bougie, and ratchet. That's a little bit about me. So we have a number of questions, and I'm excited to listen to and hear from you all. And our first question comes from Julie Dennehy. Please let me know if I'm correcting that, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Julie is an arts advocate and Medway Business Council president. I see you, Julie.
And that's me.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I like the theatrical pause. You're delightful, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
We're so lucky to have you as part of the leadership of our arts community. So I am smitten, I tell you. So my question is from the Medway Business Council. We're a little teeny tiny, but mighty powerful little association of about 60 businesses. And we love supporting the arts here in Medway. We do our best. So my question is, I'd love to hear your thoughts based on your vast experience, how MCC can collaborate with local business associations like mine to support the arts and local artists individually if you have any best practices from your past experience, and conversely, how can we help advance the MCC mission?
Sure. And I know one of the things that we all are trying to do is to bump up the work of the LCCs, which are our local cultural councils. And I'll let Luis talk a little bit more about that. But yes, so this is key to having a thriving arts industry where we have partnerships with the local businesses. And I'll just tell you, in my experiences, I was on the board of the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce and the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. I tell anyone who's running an arts organization, get involved with your chambers and your business councils, because like I said before, people do business with people they know, and those rooms are filled with potential sponsors and potential board members, and certainly patrons and great vendor relationships. So get away from your desk, get into the community, get involved with the business community as well. There are many benefits to it. I also was on the board for Bethesda Urban Partnership, which was a bid. And I know there's a question later on about the cultural districts, but a bid is a nice way to sort of bump up the business in a certain community. And if we can somehow tie our cultural districts into bids, I think that's a really good benefit. But Luis, do you want to pop on a little bit and talk about some of your dreams about the local cultural councils and how they might be more involved in the business community?
Sure, thank you very much. And I'll first speak to my current role as manager of the Cultural District Program. And Julie, I think we visited informally Medway to talk about Cultural District status, but just to say that most of our managers, a good percentage of our managers for the Cultural Districts are business association type of spaces, whether they be Main Street organizations or actual chambers of commerce. We have Athena from the Natick in the Natick group whose main role is working with merchants in their central business district, but is the manager of the Natick Center Cultural District. So that is a very direct way, because you speak with the density within that space, right? And you know who your cultural assets are. And oh, Darlene from Hopkinton, sorry, I got sidetracked. But that's a very direct answer to that. But yeah, you should also be looking to see who's in your local cultural council. And the Medway Cultural Council is up to I think 8 members. And how are those cultural council dollars spent within, in this case, your specific space, but throughout that community?
I will tell you, every time I ran an organization, one of the first things I did was join either the Chamber of Commerce or the business councils. And if I couldn't go, it was a great place for development directors and marketing people, and a great way to sort of share leadership. But all of that helped to boost up my organization's presence in their communities, and also bring in more contributed revenue and also patrons. So everything from member to member discounts, where sort of the hospital that was part of the Chamber of Commerce gave discounts to my theater, to all of their staff and stuff. So there's lots of ways we can explore that. And I'm hoping that as things sort of settle down, we can really work on a program with our local cultural councils to help them help their local arts organizations get more involved in the business community. Thank you, Julie. I'm also smitten. Great. We have a question from Kathleen Lang from David Lang Studios in Natick.
Okay, Kathleen let me know, this is Anne from Mass Cultural Council. Kathleen let me know that she might not be able to stay the whole time, but she still wanted to have her question included. So Michael, she is wanting to know what your thoughts are on artists exhibiting in a COVID world.
So if it's safe, let's go for it. But the other thing I will say is that I think that, so we're in the midst of a crisis. And I think that the more we can shift our thinking from the crisis du jour and stopping the bleeding and putting in stopgap programs. And the more we can use some of our time to really think about what the post-COVID world looks like, the better off we'll be. If we can all think of crises as opportunities to improve vulnerabilities. We have learned that we are extremely vulnerable, that most of us rely on people gathering in a space to consume art. Well, that is not possible right now, and we don't know when that's going to be possible again. We still don't even know if once you get vaccinated, you are vaccinated forever or you have to be revaccinated. So it's important that we all use the gifts that we have of creativity and imagination to start imagining the world post-COVID, the world that we want to see. I also believe that even though we're creatives, we haven't really scratched the surface of what we can do digitally. To really sort of make sure there's access and the possibilities of so many things happening in people's living rooms or in their homes or wherever they might be consuming art. I like to think of it like the sporting industry. When the sporting industry started streaming into people's homes, more people consumed sports. It didn't take away from those people that wanted to go to the arena. People still enjoyed that pastime. And in fact, more people went to the arenas to see it live. But the number of people that saw it from their TVs just skyrocketed. That had such a big benefit. It brought in more revenues, but also it brought in more contributed revenue through sponsorships because the sponsors are now able to reach so many people. The other thing I say is that what you get when you're at home consuming sports is so vastly different than what you get when you're at the space. Because at home, the kind of creativity and innovation they put into that experience is so different. You can replay it, you can zoom in, you can have commentary, you can draw on the screen and show what the plays look like. You can even scroll stats at the bottom of the screen. Imagine if we did that for our concerts, or our exhibitions, or somehow for our plays. That is a different kind of experience and more people might consume it. And then it would bring in a lot more people to our spaces. I know there's a lot of digital issues that we have to deal with people not having enough broadband and Wi-Fi access. But I think we as an arts community can start really thinking about how we can exist post-COVID, because my friends, we don't want our venues turned into condos or CVSs. It has happened before coming out of major pandemics or world crises. So be safe if you're going to exhibit now and start having time for innovation in your daily planning. Next up, we have Adrian Finlay from Music War. I'm still learning to pronounce these names. Worcester, is that right?
Music Worcester, yes.
Worcester, thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael. And I know I speak for so many of us here in Worcester when we say we look forward to meeting you very soon. And my question, you've already answered it a bit, but I'll pose it nonetheless. We are all facing so many pressures and opportunities right now, and as you mentioned, intersecting ones. COVID-related challenges and deficits, acknowledging the very real DEIA work so many of us have to figure out how to do in a more genuine manner, perhaps. And yet, one of the best ways to ensure that all of us, the members of the state's cultural sector, can fulfill their missions, engage with the highest percentage of residents of the state, visitors of the state, and take on these current pressures and challenges, is to ensure general operating funding at the very highest level, like the CIP program does. And so there's my question. Would you be able to suggest at all, and again, I think you have answered it, all the work is in front of us, but where we might be expected to go, where MCC might be expecting to go in the upcoming cycles, whether that be status quo with the program's parameters or any significant changes that might be coming to how MCC distributes its significant allocation from the state's budget.
Sure, and I'm going to bring Michael Ibrahim on to talk about the CIP program for those of you that may not know. But so you are right, more general operating, the better, because that's going to keep us afloat for a while. The issue that we have is that we get 18.2 million from the state, and we have 26 grant programs. So in order for us to grow the pot of money, we have to grow the pot of money. We also have learned that, our artists are extremely vulnerable. They are 30% more unemployment above the hardest hit industry. So for us right now, in order to sort of bump up the CIP pie, we have to take money from somewhere else, which I don't think we can do right now. So the biggest thing we can do is advocate harder to grow the main pot of money. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, but I wanted Michael to pop on and tell people a little bit more about the CIP program.
Thank you, Michael, from one to another. It's great to see everyone here today. Hi, Adrian. So for those that might not know what CIP is, it's our operating support program, completely unrestricted. I know, seeing your names, many of you are recipients of those grants. I just looked it up for our FY21 allocation today, and of that 18.2 that Michael mentioned, this program awards in this year 5.8 million of that is out in unrestricted operating support. So it is quite large. In fact, the largest in funds of grant programs that Mass Cultural Council administers and delivers. So the other thing I would mention for Culture Investment Portfolio, we also believe in service in addition to those awards. So we've been launching a whole series, about 42 webinars and workshops to help cultural organizations recover, rebuild, and renew out of COVID. And those are available to any cultural organization in Massachusetts. And our approach is a check alone doesn't solve all of the challenges that we have, and a lot of it is intellectual capital along with financial capital. So I would invite any of you and all of you to attend those workshops that you might find appropriate for your organization.
The only thing I can offer, Adrian, is some of the tips I did at New Rep. I was there for about 17 months, and I walked in with significant debt, which we eradicated in about 8 months, and actually ended the year with a surplus to the budget and quite a bit of cash in the bank, at least 5 months of reserve in the bank. Smaller budget, and I know that we have lots of different varying sizes of budgets. There are different problems with different sets of zeros. But one of the things I did was I didn't want to let go of staff. So we had several months during the year where we called it Grantapalooza, where we had all staff writing grants. Didn't matter what department you were in. We had the development department sort of build up templates and teach people sort of grant writing skills, and everyone on staff was writing grants. And we joined Philanthropy MA. If you haven't joined that group, it's a good group to join. It's a membership of other granting organizations where you can put in your organization's portfolio, and then it'll tell you all the grants you might be eligible for. And then don't be afraid to call your funders that normally maybe fund projects and ask them to shift their funding to general operating. Thank you, Adrian. Looking forward to coming out to Worcester. Got it right. I still don't understand Peabody, but I'll get that. All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun with you right now. Eric Holmgren will take us through a bit of a poll to learn a little bit more about me and some of my past.
So we're going to present a series of 3 poll questions that I'll read aloud and share with everyone. You'll be able to vote and see the results in real time. And I think we're also going to be adding some contemplative music to aid your thinking and your decision making over the next 5 minutes or so. So our first polling question is this: which of the following brands or stories did Michael not adapt into a children's play? Bob Marley, Garfield the Tabby Cat, Jumanji, Goodnight Moon, Caps for Sale, Make Way for Ducklings. If we can get up to about 75%, just about there. And here are the results. Michael, what's our answer?
Our answer is Goodnight Moon, which actually is another play that's already out there, but it's brilliant. So many of you know that I ran a children's theater, so all of these are children's theater plays. So interested that Make Way for Ducklings got the biggest percentage. I will tell you, so before I got here, before I came to Massachusetts, I reached out to my friend Emily Renai, who runs Wheelock Family Theater. I had my last theater commissioned the adaptation of Make Way for Ducklings, and I thought we should do this at a children's theater in Boston because it's such a great Boston story. And Emily Ray and I said yes. So next year, there will be the world premiere of Make Way for Ducklings. Hard to write a play or musical about ducklings that sing with Boston accents. But hopefully you all can see that. But it's an adorable play, and but all the other things I did, I adapted into plays.
All right, and for our second poll question, still
Julie, it quacks Julie up.
Question number 2, which art form did Michael not work in professionally? Directing an opera, sculpting public art statues, choreographing a ballet, writing plays for the Smithsonian, trumpeting for a major national orchestra. Right, everyone back. Michael, what's our answer?
You all got it right. Sculpting public art statues. Wow, good. So I see you, MetroWest and Central Mass. No, I did not sculpt public art statues. But I did write several plays for the Smithsonian. I was the director of touring productions for the Smithsonian's Discovery Theater. And it was a great sort of, I did it for maybe 5 or 6 years. And what was great about that is that we took exhibits and we turned them into living exhibits. The challenge was I couldn't make up stuff. And in plays, you can dramatize things and make up some things. But in the plays, I could not. We did a series of plays. The first was called Living in Two Languages. These were about Latinx acculturation issues. The second was The Greatest Stories Never Told. These were sort of Black history stories that were left out of the book. It's actually where I met my great aunt, Mamie Peanut Johnson, because I did a play on Negro baseball, and she was speaking with the Smithsonian at the Library of Congress, and we realized that we were related. And the last series was called Living in Two Languages, and this was about Asian American acculturation issues as well. But it was a great time there. All right, one more question.
One more question. Our final question, complete with theme music. Which one of these did Michael not do? And I'll let your imagination run for just a second before I share the choices.
Uh-oh.
Pioneering sensory autism-friendly performances, serving as a grant panelist to review state arts agencies for the National Endowment for the Arts, supporting and beta testing a state senator's state-supported bridge gap loans to nonprofits, introducing Michelle Obama at a well-publicized event, hosting a cable TV show to promote a county's arts and culture scene. No pressure, but you're 2 for 2 right now, so this is big.
Oh, wow. What's the, so I did not, I forget what the list is. Thank you. No, I did not introduce Michelle Obama at a well-publicized event. It is a lifelong dream of mine. Someday, especially when we turn into a monarchy and she becomes the queen, right? Queen Michelle. I see that the largest got supporting a state senator's state-supported bridge gap loans to nonprofits. I'll tell you about that. There was a state senator in Maryland that had the idea that arts organizations that were getting state money from the Maryland State Arts Council, if they were in financial crisis, they had a cash flow problem, they could get a loan from the state And that would come out of the gift they would get later on. So it was a kind of a way to figure it out. So I helped her write that bill, and then my theater company beta tested it, and the goal was to make it as simple as possible. It was a half a page application. You sent it in, and that money came to you within a few days. But it was great. So if you were getting a state appropriation from the State Arts Council, you could get some money in a loan, a non-interest bearing loan, and then that money would be subtracted from your big appropriation. But that was a kind of a fun program to beta test and help her write, and then to help her market to other nonprofits. That's it. I may have to change up these questions because I think some people are getting wind of the questions. So we may try some new ones later on. All right, we are going to now turn to Athena Pandolf from Natick Center Cultural District.
Hi, good morning, Michael. Thank you so much for meeting with us. It's a pleasure to meet you, and just love your sense of humor. And you said Bridgerton, and then my mind just went off into awesome things, and like the color of your shirt and the color saturation in the show. I just love it, love it, love it. Anyway, it's great to meet you. I'm the executive director of the Natick Center Cultural District, and I guess you answered some of this already, but if you could just, speak to us about what advice do you have for the districts or other cultural organizations and how we can best support the various cultures of community members within it? We've outreached to different community members and really tried to create, different events like Multicultural Day, and some are just harder to reach than others, and maybe they don't feel like, they have a voice. So we really just want to provide them with opportunities. So I was just interested to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Athena. And you're right, Bridgerton is everything. And so hopefully there will be a musical someday. Here's what I'll say is that if your organization is predominantly white, we have to understand that it was designed to be that way. It doesn't mean that the people that designed it that way are bad people, but that's how it was designed. So if we want to be predominantly multicultural, we have to redesign it to be that way. And what's difficult about that is that some people go for policy changes in programs. But if you think about it, policy changes and programs don't turn people all of a sudden into multicultural. For example, the 1964 Civil Rights Policy change did not turn bigots into being not bigots, right? And programs like affirmative action mostly benefited white women. So programs and policies won't fix the multiculturalism that you might be seeking. What you have to do is do a major cultural shift in your organization and figure out how you can design your organization to be multicultural. And the reason why I say that is that action is the most important thing when you're trying to attract people of color or marginalized people or different cultural groups. Marginalized people have, for lack of a better word, have been betrayed most of the time they've been in this country. And I sort of believe that anti-racism, equity, diversity, inclusion are all acts of love, where you're really trying to show love to people that maybe have never been loved by this country before. So you really have to do it through action. And the best way I can describe it is, if you've ever been cheated on before, you become hyper vigilant, right? You want to know, like, who you're talking to, where you're going, what time you're getting home, let me see your email, why are you texting him or her, right? And they can say 100 times, trust me, I will never cheat again. It means nothing without action. Action to rebuild trust and rebuild relationships. Actions signal a lot to people. So you have to build your action plans. The other way I sort of describe it is that as a gay man, I feel safe going into a building when there's a rainbow flag posted somewhere. That says, hey, the people in this organization are not gonna be bigots or belittle me or whatever. For people of color and marginalized communities, they feel safe when they know that your actions are proving that you're doing something. Solidarity statements are actually harder because it says that I know there's a problem out there, but if there's no action to follow the solidarity statement, it says, I know there's a problem out there, but I'm not going to do anything about it. So build your action plan. Start with like, here are the 10 things I'm going to do this year to build a more multicultural organization. And really think about, when you think about the things you're building, think about how you can shift the culture of the organization to be multicultural as opposed to programs. Many of us do discount ticketing, right? But discount ticketing doesn't fix the problem that we may have in our organization. They may serve those people that get the discount tickets, but they're not going to fix the overall thing. I'm hoping that we can find the bandwidth to support you all with some sort of anti-racism or EDI training. We're going to put it on our plan to figure it all out. And I will share, and Anne will help me with this, but I will share with you a packet that I designed at New Rep, which is a sort of a 20-hour self-paced onboarding orientation packet. It was used to sort of onboard staff and board members into our anti-racist culture. It's broken down into 6 lesson plans. Each lesson plan is 2 to 4 hours. There are some reflective questions, and most of the stuff I pulled off of Google. But I'll share that with everyone. That will give you a broader perspective on some of those things. And then I'm also happy to, if people need some, if they have plans or they're having struggles in their organizations, given the busyness of my schedule, I'm also happy to support you if you need on a personal basis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jennifer, yes, I will share it with you. I'll have Anne send it out to everyone that came to the Zoom today. Fantastic. We have Troy B. Thompson from No Evil Project in Worcester.
Hello. Yeah, you've answered pretty much this already. Basically, I'm a photographer and executive director of the No Evil Project, which uses art and humor and conversation to challenge stereotypes and help people find commonality despite their differences. And based on your sense of humor, I think you're going to love it, actually.
Great.
We'll get you to participate in it.
Good.
But my question was wondering about your thoughts on art and diversity that you haven't already talked about, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, sure. Well, yes, I mean, so you heard that. So I just believe that, well, a couple of things. The more you can design your action plans, going back to Athena's question, to really help the people that need it the most, the more you'll bridge the gap between sort of the privileged and those that are marginalized. If our rules and stuff are for the people that have privilege, then the gap widens. So if we can think about these people down here, then we'll close the gap. You won't lose these people. Trust me, you won't lose these people. The other thing I will say that's a little bit different than sort of the feel-good social aspects of being more diverse is that diversity is really good for business, my friends. It's really good for business. And right now, considering the public crisis and outcry about this, I think those organizations that aren't actively working to, and I say action again, actively working to diversify, you might be vulnerable in the next 10 to 15 years, because I think the world is saying being predominantly white and not being multicultural is not okay. So I think it's important for you to like really work at that. But the reason why I say it's good for business, I was speaking with, I was doing some consulting with a automotive group. It was sort of the parent company of like 100 different dealerships up and down the East Coast. And I was doing this workshop with their C-suite, which was all white men. And I said to them, you all are really, really, really great at selling cars to white men, but you're leaving money on the table because you don't know how to sell cars to people of color. And if you can figure that out by making sure that the people in the room have diverse perspectives, then you're going to like make more money. So our organizations that are not really actively pursuing an action plan to become multicultural, you're leaving money on the table. The brown and black people that I know love theater, but they just didn't love the white theaters. So you'll open your doors up to thousands and thousands of people that may not feel comfortable or don't feel like it's for them. So that's somewhat of my perspective on diversity and multiculturalism. I like some of the stuff I'm seeing in the chat. Great. We have another question from Jonathan Cohen from Greater Worcester Community Foundation.
Thank you, Michael. Jonathan, not John, first time, short time. MCC has long advocated for state funding and attention, but those advocacy successes often yield much better results for Metro Boston than for the rest of the state. Any early thoughts on how to ensure equitable resource energy distribution, or maybe even disproportionate resource and energy distribution to the rest of the state?
Yeah, so we'll be doing an audit of all of our programs to kind of see where we need to think about equity more, Jonathan. So thank you so much for that. I will take this time because I don't know the details of that, so I don't want to get into too many things and speak out of turn. But I do want to take the time because part of your question also was talking about, in general, talking about advocacy. I would love for Bethany Steiner to pop on and talk about some of the work that we're doing right now for advocacy, because I really need everyone's help for us to sort of widen the pool of money that we can get. Hi, Beth Ann.
Hi, Michael. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bethany Steiner. I'm the Public Affairs Director for Mass Cultural Council, and one of my responsibilities is to manage our government relations on Beacon Hill. And we have a few different advocacy campaigns in the works right now, and there's more information to come. And if you do not follow us on social media, the agency at Mass Cultural, or check out our Power of Culture blog on the regular, or receive any of our e-newsletters, I do invite you to sign up for any of those things on our website so that you can stay in touch. We're very lucky that we also have a statewide advocacy partner in Mass Creative, and we work very closely with them on lots of policy and other matters that are being considered on Beacon Hill. But a couple of things that we can talk about quickly. Of course, every year the legislature has to create a budget for the Commonwealth for the operating costs of all state agencies, and that's primarily how Mass Cultural Council is funded as a state agency. The governor's budget came out in January. That's known as H1. Unfortunately, he did propose a small decrease in our line item of 10.4%. So you will be hearing from us as the process moves through the House and the Senate with requests to reach out to your House members and to your Senate members and ask them to support at the minimum level funding, which would be $18.1 million for Mass Cultural Council. We're working on a couple of big pieces of legislation, and I know Representative Mary Keefe is with us, and she has a number of bills that are super interesting and helpful for the sector. But the two that I wanted to flag, because we as an agency are actually working on them right now, one with Senator Ed Kennedy of Lowell, who is the Senate chair of the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development, which would create a new COVID relief fund for the cultural sector. And the really interesting thing about this fund is it would not be funded with state dollars or state tax revenues or even the state's rainy day fund, which is sort of the piggy bank or savings account that the Commonwealth keeps for emergencies, but it would simply direct future federal COVID relief dollars into this fund at a minimum of $200 million. And then the agency would use that to make relief grants to artists and cultural organizations. So we're working with Senator Ed Kennedy on that and with Mass Creative, and we invite you all to reach out to your reps and to your senators and ask them to support and co-sponsor that docket. And then another bill that we're working on is a little bit smaller scale, but we think it would be great for advocacy and growing our networks. You know, our Communities Initiative runs the LCC network, which is the largest grassroots arts funding network in the country, and we're very proud of that. But we are finding that in some rural communities, it's hard for the LCCs to maintain full membership, and then it's hard for them to meet with a quorum to do their important business of grant making. And that's because in state law, someone who holds elected office on the local or regional level is prohibited from being appointed to serve on a local cultural council. And so what we are suggesting is just a small technical correction to say that, yes, we think that makes sense for a primary decision maker, like the appointing authority, like a mayor, or the appropriating authority like the select board or the city council, but other local or regional elected officials like a library commissioner or a historical commission person or a town meeting member actually might be really interested in serving on their LCC, and we think that that should be available to them. So that bill has been filed by Rep. Ken Gordon and in the Senate by Senator Adam Hines. And again, we invite you to reach out to your rep and your senator and ask them to support and co-sponsor. And then lastly, for advocacy, you probably have seen that the agency has been conducting a number of COVID economic impact surveys, both on individual artists and our cultural organizations. We've done 5 rounds since last March when the pandemic first hit Massachusetts. And it's really important that we keep this exercise going. I know survey fatigue is real, but the more updated information and data that we have, we can then share with our partners on Beacon Hill, and they can make informed decisions about investing public dollars into the sector for support and stabilization. So we have a survey open right now for cultural organizations. It will be open until next Monday, March 1. And please, if you are a representative of a cultural organization, please do fill that out so we can tell your story and we can advocate effectively for more dollars.
Thank you, Beth Ann. So friends, yes, we get to know your local legislators and your state legislators because we need relationships, and also make sure you're signing up for Mass Creative's advocacy alerts. And whenever you get an email from Emily Reddick, who's the executive director there, put whatever you have to put on it, make it sing music and fireworks and your computer shake, so that you just do what Emily says, because we, the legislators, will need to hear from you so that we can get this one technical change in the LCC bill, get that 200 million plus from the feds, and then also get to at least level funding, if not more, from the state budget. We really need your help. State, they need to hear from you as well. There was one question in the chat about diversity in rural or areas that don't have a diverse population. I just wanted to say there is a difference between diversity and anti-racism. You may not be diverse, you can still be anti-racist, and that will help you with diversity. The next kind of fun thing is that staff wanted me to share with you some of
I guess you can see a little bit of it. There's a lot of art on my wall. Can you hear me still? I'm gonna take a little bit of a trip around my living room. But so here on the side is one of our gallery walls. We're living here in Cambridge, and I want to share with you a little bit about a couple of the artists on the wall. So this artist here who did that piece, this piece, and this piece, he's sort of blowing up in the contemporary art world. His name is Kari Turner. He's still a student at MFA student at Columbia, but we've become super obsessed with him. We bought 4 of his pieces. And so that's just a little glimpse of my my work. He's been on the cover of magazines and all kinds of things like that. The other one I wanted to show you, this part here. Can you see that? Sort of contemporary abstract art. But that's by an artist named Michael West. And Steve sent me a text, my husband sent me a text about Michael West. She studied under Hans Hofmann. She was schoolmates with Mark Rothko and Arshile Gorky, and close friends with D. Kooning and Pollock. She disappeared from the world in the late 1970s and died in 1991. She was named, Michael West was named in 2018 a pioneer of abstract expressionism. But the reason why I tell you that story is because her born name was Corinne Michelle West. She changed her name to Michael West because female artists weren't getting sold back then. So check her out. I think she's super fascinating. And most of the art on our wall is by marginalized people. Oh, and there's the bar. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for the day. It's been great to hang out with you, and we will now. So your action steps are to check out Mass Creative, and then fill out the survey. We need that information back so that can help inform our advocacy efforts. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to put a remark in the chat, letting me know anything that you want me to know as I'm onboarding and learning the agency and learning what you all need. And then we're going to save the chat, and staff and I will comb through it and pick out the action steps from there. And while you're doing that, we're going to hear music by Latin Logic, a local ensemble that fuses old school salsa, Latin jazz, and Afro-Caribbean beats. The recording is from a showcase concert presented by Mass Cultural Council in 2018 at the Shea Lin Liu Performing Center in Rockport. And when the performance is over, we'll hang for another 2 minutes or so, and then close out the Zoom. But have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the sun. It's going to be close to 50 today. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Put things in the chat that you want me to know about.
Great questions. Keep them coming.
Hice más de 1000 promesas, hice tanta oración. Debe ser que rezó bajo, que mi Dios no me escuchó. Debe ser que rezó bajo, que mi Dios no me escuchó. Voy pasando, voy llorando, voy recordando ese lugar. Ahí por andar, la tierra se secó por andar. Ahí por andar, la lluvia no llegó por andar. Ahí por andar, la tierra se secó por andar. Ahí por andar, la lluvia no llegó por andar. Mientras me voy alejando, voy pensando sin parar, que mejor lo dejo ahora, que ver todo para llorar, que mejor lo dejo ahora, que ver todo para llorar. Voy pasando, voy llorando, voy recordando ese lugar. Ahí por andar, ahí por andar, se digo mira que la tierra de Oranda, allá lo que dice la gente, dime con quién tú hackeas mi palanca, le voy a decir mulato con quién tú andas. Ay, por andar. Oye, que vamos a pedirle al cielo, ay, por andar, que nos llene de consuelo y el amor y en la esperanza. Ay, por andar. Oye, porque mira, hace tanta guerra y tanta matanza. hace rato que no llueve.
Thanks, friends. Have a great day. Enjoy your day. Take care.